Hello, hello. Welcome back or welcome to the Tower Yoga Podcast. In our last episode, we explored Yoga Sutras 1.5 through 1.11. That's where Patanjali describes the many ways the mind moves, if you remember, through thought, memory, imagination, and rest. That episode was called You Are Not Your Thoughts. And so if you haven't listened to that one, I would go back to that one or all the way back to a few episodes ago when we started this little mini series on the Yoga Sutras. And they're short, sweet. They're easy to get through. So I would go back if you haven't already, because today we're building on those prior episodes and those sutras. So if those earlier sutras helped us understand why we practice to see and eventually calm the fluctuations of the mind so we can experience our true nature, then these next ones, 1.12 through 1.17, show us how. That was why this is okay. Well, how do we approach the practice now? They really describe two essential tools that steady the mind, abhyasa, steady practice, and vairagya, non-attachment or letting go. Before we begin, I want to pause for a moment of acknowledgement. Like I've said in past episodes in the series, the Yoga Sutras come from the Indian tradition of yoga. I share these reflections with deep respect for that lineage, not as a scholar, but as a student who studies them. I explore these ancient teachings and I continue to reflect on them and let them guide my life. And my life is a very modern one, and my practice is a very modern one. And it's really cool because these teachings are still totally relevant. And I think that the reflection of them is something that has been a huge guiding light. And so I share from this reflective place. Okay, let's get back to those tools I was talking about. Sutra 1.12 says that the fluctuations of the mind are controlled through practice and non-attachment. So practice is what grounds us. It's what centers us. It's the act of returning again and again to what steadies us, whether that's the breath, the body, or just pure awareness itself. Non-attachment is what softens us. It's the reminder to release the grasping, the tight grip, the judgment, the need for things to be different than they are, especially when we have a huge preference for them to be different. So one is effort. You can think of it like that. And one is ease. And together they create a balance. And some would even argue that's what yoga is. It's that middle ground between effort and ease, but not necessarily like a fixed point in the middle. It's the ability to go between that spectrum and to mostly steady yourself somewhere in that middle path is my reflection on it. Sometimes things require more effort. Sometimes things require more ease, not always at the same exact time. And then hopefully in the middle there, we can live a majority of our life. Sutras 1.13 and 1.14 start to describe what real practice looks like. Patanjali says that true practice is done steadily over a long period of time with devotion, really coming to the practice with a pure heart, with good intentions and reverence for the teachings. That means showing up not perfectly necessarily, but consistently. So it's not about a flawless posture or like this perfectly quiet mind every single time or really at all. It's about returning again and again, consistently, even when life is messy or it's inconvenient. And it's about what attitude you're bringing to your mat. It really is. I think that's the thing that I've been really contemplating a lot is like, what attitude am I bringing to my mat? What attitude am I bringing to my day? What attitude am I bringing to this conversation, to this moment? It's really important to know because life is happening. Life is going to keep lifing. And these circumstances of life pull us all around. And then, if we're not clear on not only what attitude am I bringing, but is that the one that I intentionally want to choose, then all these things happening all around us are going to dictate what attitude we have. And then it's this huge ripple effect. So it is really important to think about, like, yeah, what attitude am I bringing to my practice? What attitude am I bringing to my life? This is the quiet discipline of yoga. It's gentle, but very committed, this persistence that builds inner steadiness over time. Next, in 1.15 and 1.16, we get more into vairagya, or the concept of letting go, non attachment. Patanjali says that peace comes when we stop chasing pleasure or running away from discomfort, when we move away from whatever we are, uh, you know, actually, when we allow ourselves to move a little bit more towards what we would normally be averted to. And when we move away from those things that maybe we feel a little like addicted to, or, yeah, like magnetized towards all the time. So at first, this might sound impossible, or even just like straight up kind of stupid, because we're wired to prefer comfort and resist pain, of course. But non attachment doesn't mean indifference. It doesn't mean that we need to like numb out and just like, do what we don't want all the time. It means that we begin to see everything as a part of the same unfolding: pleasure, pain, success, failure, and we stay steady through it all. The highest form of non attachment, Patanjali says, is when we can even release our attachment to spiritual insight itself, when we don't cling to the idea of self improvement or progress or enlightenment. I think inner work is really important, but even that can be something that we start to cling to. I know for myself, and I will just speak for myself, that is something that I have to really watch, that I will get attached to this concept and this practice of progressing as a spiritual and human being. So this letting go, this non-attachment, vairagya, it's the freedom that comes when we put a pause on all the measuring and like measuring ourselves against our past versions of ourselves or other people or whatever. And we let ourselves be as we are, and not just be as we are, but feel ourselves as we are. That's a huge piece. 1.17 starts to get into what happens when the mind steadies. It describes what arises when practice and letting go mature. So it's when we become a little more seasoned in these practices. The mind becomes still, awareness deepens, and a sense of like underlying true, real happiness begins to surface. Not because anything outside of us has changed per se, not because our circumstances have turned around, but because we've stopped gripping so tightly. That steadiness, that centeredness is where clarity and peace just naturally shine through. So that's all like simple, very like common sense, but it's a lot too. So let's just do a brief little reflection and integration of these sutras. I like to think of these two, practice and letting go, as the inhale and exhale of yoga. On the inhale, we commit, we practice, we show up, even if we're not shining too bright. On the exhale, we release. We let go of how we think things should be. Both are required. Both are absolutely necessary. Without practice, we drift. Without letting go, we grip. But together, they create this rhythm that really helps to anchor the mind. And that's something that gets back to Why? It's like, okay, how do we approach the practice with devotion consistently? And why do we do it? To anchor the mind and experience ourselves, hopefully, as we really are in our natural state, our unedited, unfiltered natural state. That hopefully we can experience that before it's time to drop the body, drop the name, drop the identifications, drop the roles, all that kind of stuff. I don't know about you, but for me, that would be really, really cool to experience that while I'm here as much as possible. Okay, but I digress. In your movement practice, you might notice this balance. You have maybe been in a posture before where there's like this mixture of the strength, right, to hold the pose, to maintain your composure, and the softness and the ease. Maybe it's just in your mind, if it's not this physical thing, of like surrender, of being fully committed and dedicated and giving yourself over to that posture. That's balance. It's somewhere, again, between that effort and ease point. And it's usually this combination between mind and body, and the breath is sort of, the bridge in life. So if we're getting away from thinking about asana practice in life, like the big practice, it might sound like, it could be a mantra of like, I'll do my part and I'll trust what comes. I do my part and I trust what comes. And it's showing up, it's doing what you can do, and knowing that whatever outcome comes from that, there's nothing to regret or harp on or anything like that. If you generally showed up with the attitude that you chose, with the right intentions and all these kinds of things, that doesn't mean, right, that the outcome is going to happen exactly as we want it to. But the fallback is that, okay, yeah, I've come to whatever situation is in life in these ways with that clarity, and I can surrender and just trust what comes, because what else am I gonna do? It's out of my hands. It's that idea of like really owning what's in your hands and having like being humble enough to go, oh yeah, and whatever happens after that is out of my hands. The only thing I have control over is how I respond, how I react, and how I keep moving forward. So really, it's like practice, let go, repeat. Practice, let go, repeat. That, in my one humble small opinion, is getting right to the heart of yoga. Practice, let go, repeat. So in closing, as you move through your day or your practice, maybe just keep that simple rhythm in mind. Practice, let go, practice, let go, practice, let go. Every time you return to awareness, you strengthen your foundation underneath you. Every time you release that need to control what's out of your hands, you create space for inner peace. The mind steadies not because we force it to, but because we learn to meet it with devotion, with patience, and hopefully with some grace. So thank you so much for being here, for listening in, and for walking this path of practice and release with me. Until next time, may your practice be steady and your letting go happen with ease.